In Hollywood, chemistry is everything, but sometimes that chemistry isn't just acted. It's inherited. From fathers and sons dodging bullets to real-life couples caught in cinematic crossfire, these aren't just performances, they're family affairs. So what happens when the people sharing the screen also share a last name, a bloodline, or a wedding ring? Let's find out. This is 10 action movies starring actual families. Forsaken is a western written by Brad Merman and directed by John Kasser. The story centers on Jackson Cates, a former gunslinger who returns to his hometown after years away, only to confront corruption and protect those he left behind. In the film, Kiefer Sutherland plays Jackson Cates, the protagonist gunslinger, while his real-life father, Donald Sutherland, portrays Reverend Cates, Jackson's estranged minister father. This marks one of the most prominent on-screen collaborations where a father and son portray the same relationship within a fully realized narrative. The Shepherd Border Patrol is a direct-to-video action film starring Jean-Claude Van Damme as Jack Robideau, a former New Orleans cop who transfers to the US-Mexico Border Patrol to escape personal tragedy. The movie quietly features Van Damme's real-life daughter, Bianca Van Varenberg, in a small role. The Shepherd marked one of her earliest on-screen appearances in one of her father's films. Their characters do not interact in a meaningful way within the film, but this collaboration began a short streak of on-screen work together. Following The Shepherd, Bianca appeared with her father in other action titles such as Assassination Games, Six Bullets, and Welcome to the Jungle. Although she never reached leading lady status in the genre, her recurring presence in Van Damme's late career films makes her one of his most consistent family co-stars, and The Shepherd is where that trend quietly started. Hostage is an action thriller starring Bruce Willis as Jeff Talley, a former hostage negotiator who has retreated to a quiet suburban post after a traumatic case. His new life is upended when a group of armed teenagers takes a family hostage, and Talley is forced back into crisis mode to save them. His real-life daughter, Rumer Willis, plays Amanda Talley, his character's daughter in the film. While she is not part of the central hostage plot, which revolves around another family, Amanda appears in scenes that establish Talley's family life and emotional stakes. Daylight is a disaster action thriller directed by Rob Cohen and starring Sylvester Stallone as Kit Latura, a disgraced former emergency medical services chief who must lead a desperate rescue mission when a massive explosion traps a group of civilians inside a collapsed New Jersey tunnel. Among the trapped survivors is a character named Mikey, portrayed by Sage Stallone, Sylvester Stallone's real-life son. This wasn't their first time appearing together. Sage had previously played Robert Balboa Jr., Rocky's son in Rocky V, which was a more prominent father-son role. Tragically, Sage Stallone passed away in 2012, and Daylight remains one of only a handful of films in which he acted alongside his father.
Dayhan.
Best of the Best is a martial arts sports drama that follows the US national karate team as they prepare to take on South Korea in a high-stakes international tournament. Philip Rhee stars as Tommy Lee, a gifted martial artist haunted by the death of his brother, while his real-life sibling Simon Rhee plays Dae-Han Park, the fearsome South Korean fighter responsible for that loss. Following the success of the film, Philip Rhee would continue the series in later sequels. Simon Rhee briefly returned in Best of the Best too, but this time Dae-Han had a smaller role. Their work in the original Best of the Best remains a standout moment in martial arts cinema, not just for the choreography, but for the authentic intensity that only real siblings could bring to a rivalry like this. Long Riders is a revisionist western directed by Walter Hill, chronicling the rise and fall of the infamous Jesse James gang. James and Stacy Keach play Jesse and Frank James, while David, Keith, and Robert Carradine portray the younger brothers. Meanwhile, Randy and Dennis Quaid step in as the Miller brothers, and Christopher and Nicholas Guest appear as the Ford brothers. This made The Long Riders a unique cinematic experiment, blending real-life family dynamics into the period setting of the Old West. The Keach brothers, who also co-wrote and co-produced the film, spearheaded the concept of casting actual brothers in the core roles. Although some of these brotherly duos acted together in other projects, The Long Riders is the most famous and deliberate example of a film constructed around multiple real-life sibling teams, all sharing top billing in the same story. Donnie Darko is a cult favorite written and directed by Richard Kelly. The story follows Donnie, a troubled teenager played by Jake Gyllenhaal, who begins having visions of a demonic rabbit named Frank that warns him of the world's impending end. Jake stars opposite his real-life sister, Maggie Gyllenhaal, who plays Elizabeth Darko, Donnie's older sister. Though Maggie only appears in a handful of scenes, her presence is notable for anchoring Donnie's home life in a way that feels lived in rather than scripted. After Donnie Darko, Jake and Maggie would go on to build acclaimed careers independently, but they've never starred together in another film since. That makes Donnie Darko a unique moment in early 2000s cinema where a real sibling dynamic helped shape one of the most analyzed and debated films of its generation. Set 1,000 years in the future, it follows a young cadet named Katai, played by Jaden Smith, who must survive a hostile alien world and signal for rescue after his ship crashes. His father, Cypher, played by Will Smith, is injured and guides Katai through dangerous terrain remotely as the boy faces wild creatures, extreme weather, and internal fear. This film was marketed heavily around the real-life father-son pairing of Will and Jaden, who had previously starred together in The Pursuit of Happiness. Despite its big budget and star power, After Earth received mostly negative reviews and underperformed at the box office. However, the film still stands as a rare example of a father and son headlining a major Hollywood action production. Hard to Kill is a gritty, revenge-driven action film starring Steven Seagal as Mason Storm, a Los Angeles detective who's left for dead after uncovering a political conspiracy. After waking from a 7-year coma, Storm embarks on a violent mission of payback against the corrupt officials and killers who targeted his family. Starring alongside Seagal is Kelly LeBrock, who plays Andy Stewart, a nurse who helps Storm recover and becomes his love interest as he regains his strength and prepares for vengeance. At the time of filming, Seagal and LeBrock were married in real life, having wed in 1987. LeBrock was already well known from Weird Science and The Woman in Red, but Hard to Kill marked her brief foray into the action genre. Their pairing gave the film a unique dynamic, mixing brutal martial arts and shootouts with romantic tension, though their marriage would later end in divorce in 1996. This film remains a rare case where a real-life married couple played lovers in an action setting, and it's one of Seagal's earliest box office successes. Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a high-octane action comedy directed by Doug Liman, starring Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie as John and Jane Smith, a seemingly average suburban couple hiding a very explosive secret. They're both elite assassins working for rival organizations. When their employers discover the truth, the couple is ordered to eliminate each other, triggering a chaotic chain of events filled with gunfights, betrayals, and bedroom warfare. Although Pitt and Jolie were not married at the time of filming, their highly publicized romance began on the set and eventually led to their real-life marriage. Their on-screen chemistry, filled with both charm and tension, became one of the film's biggest selling points and fueled years of media attention long after the credits rolled. Whether it's brothers battling it out, a father guiding his son through alien terrain, or a married couple exchanging both vows and gunfire, these films prove that real-life relationships can turn up the heat, even in the middle of an action scene. Sometimes it adds depth, sometimes it adds tension, and sometimes it just makes for great movie trivia. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content.